Well, hello. I'm Mr. Monty from Lewis and Clark. Welcome to Algebra 2. Today's assignment, Finding the Zeros of Polynomials, worksheet number 2. Today's worksheet, we're putting it all together. Given any polynomial and a possible root. If we take the possible root and divide it in, if we come out with a 0, that means that this was indeed a root of the original function. We can write it and then finish the problem. We need to find all the roots, all the factors, and actually write it out in factored form when we're all done today. So most of these problems I'm going to use the long division method because that's what we're actually tested on this year, even though today you started learning synthetic division. Okay? I've already started this problem, but let's finish it off. 2x squared times x gives us 2x to the third plus 6x squared. Now we need to subtract it. So make sure you distribute that minus sign. 0, 3x squared, bring down the 10x. 3x times x gives us 3x squared. 3x times 3 gives us 9x. Again, when we subtract, make sure you distribute that negative sign to both items, leaving us x, bringing down the 3, x plus 3. Indeed, x plus 3 goes into x plus 3 one time. So, x plus 3, distribute the negative sign, we do indeed get 0. So that tells us x plus 3 is indeed a 0 or a factor of this original cubic. Cool. But now we've got to finish the problem. We have a linear binomial, but then we have a quadratic. Well, we know how to factor quadratics. Two different techniques. At Lewis and Clark we teach split the middle term. We need to find two numbers that multiply to be a times c, which is 2. Multiply to be a times c, which is 2. And add to be the middle term, b, which is 3. Can you see those factors? 1 times 2 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. Good. So we split the middle term with a 1 and a 2. Let's write it out. 2x squared plus an x plus a 2x plus a 1. This is a technique called splitting the middle term that we teach a lot here at Lewis and Clark. You bring this down, you bring this down, and then we split the middle term into two numbers that multiply to be a times c and add to be the middle term 3. Now, at this point, we actually draw a little fence here and we reverse factor. 2 times x plus x times 1. There is an x common to both, leaving 2x plus 1. This one's a little more confusing because 2x plus 1 is what we want to get. So we can actually factor out a plus 1, leaving 2x plus 1. We know we did it right when those match. So now our final answer for the quadratic is x plus 1, 2x plus 1. And, going back to the original, finding the zeros of the polynomial, we will get zeros and the factored form. The zeros, let's do the factored form first. X plus 3, x plus 1, and 2x plus 1. The zeros are what makes these 0. So negative 3, negative 1, and 2x plus 1. If you're not sure, you could write off to the side, 2x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 from both sides, 2x equals negative 1. Divide by 2, x equals negative 1/2. Negative 1/2. So, using long division, Given a possible root, we were able to do long division and then factor. And this time we actually factored using split the middle term technique. If you don't like split the middle term technique, no problem. You can always go back to the quadratic formula. X equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's try the next problem. Problem number 2. (3x cubed minus 11x squared minus 2x plus 24). And it says, let's try x equals 2. Well, x equals 2, when we do the long division technique, that'll be x minus 2, all divided into that cubic. Alright, let's get started. How many times does this x go into 3x cubed? 3x squared. 3x cubed, 3x squared times the negative 2 will be minus 6x squared. Draw the line. Make sure you do your negatives. Negative, negative, making that a plus. Subtract it out, and we're going to get minus 17. Let's see. Oh, that became a plus. Good catch. So we're going to have minus 5x squared minus 2x. How many times? X goes into negative 5x squared 5 times, so minus 5x squared plus a 10x. Distribute that minus sign. So this is when we don't want to make a mistake. When we write this out, that becomes a plus, that becomes a minus, giving us negative 12x plus the 24. Now, how many times does x go into negative 12x minus 12 minus 12x plus 24? Draw our line, change our signs, giving us 0. So we got a happy face. We have a remainder of 0, telling us that indeed x minus 2 is a 0, is a factor of this cubic. So now we have x minus 2, and everything that's left, 3x squared minus 5x minus 12. We can take that quadratic and either use the quadratic formula or splitting the middle term in order to get our final two factors. Well, for most of these today, I wanted to split the middle term. So let's give it a try. We're going to have a 3x squared and a negative 12. Now, we need to split the middle term. Two numbers that multiply to be negative 36 and add to be the middle term, which is b, which is negative 5. Now you can always make a factor tree. 1 times negative 36, 2 times negative 18, all the way down until you find two numbers that add to be negative 5. In this case, we're going to use 4 times negative 9, which gives us negative 36, and 4 minus 9 gives us a negative 5. Splitting the middle term to get two numbers that multiply to be negative 36 and add to be a negative 5. Let's try it out. So plus 4x minus 9x minus the 12. Draw our little fence here and reverse factor. We see that there's an x common to both, leaving 3x plus 4. And this one, we still want to get that 3x plus 4. So this one with all these negatives, we're going to factor out a negative 3, leaving 3x plus 4. We know we did it right because they match, giving us x minus 3, 3x plus 4. Those are the factors for the quadratic that was left after we did the long division on the cubic. So finally, we got our zeros and our factors, factored form. So we're going to write it out. X minus 2, x minus 3, and 3x plus 4. Our zeros, 2, 3. This one's a little harder. You can always set it equal to 0 if you're confused. Subtract 4 from both sides. 3x equals negative 4. Divide by 3. X equals negative 4 over 3. And if anybody asked you to take this and graph it, piece of cake. We have a cubic that's positive, so it starts low, finishes high, crosses at negative 4 over 3, positive 2, positive 3. Let's go on and try number 3. All right, problem number 3. F of x is equal to 3x cubed plus 8x squared minus 4x minus 16 with the possible choice of x equals negative 2. Well, if x is equal to negative 2, we're actually going to divide in x plus 2 into our cubic. 3x cubed plus 8x squared minus 4x minus 16. Let's give it a try. First thing we'll do, how many times does this x go into 3x cubed? 3x squared. 3x cubed plus a 6x squared. Draw our line. Make sure that we do our negatives all the way across. Negative, negative, which is going to give us the 2x squared minus 4x. X squared goes into 2x squared two times. 2x. For 2x squared plus 4x. Make sure we do our negative sign. Giving us negative 8x minus 16. Hopefully, you can see at this point, yep, minus 8 times x gives us negative 8x. Negative 8 times a positive 2 gives us negative 16. Change our sign, giving us the 0 that we want, and our little smiley face, meaning that this indeed is a factor of the original cubic. Write it out, x plus 2, 3x squared plus 2x minus 8. We need to factor this. Two numbers that multiply to be a times c, which is negative 24, and adds to be the b value, which is indeed positive 2. For time's sake, the two numbers that we're going to use is negative 4 times 6. That's negative 24. And negative 4 plus a 6 is indeed a positive 2. Using those two terms, we split the middle term minus the 4x plus the 6x minus the 8. Draw our little fence. reverse factor, we can pull out an x, leaving 3x minus 4. We can pull out, we want to get 3x minus 4 here, so we're going to pull out a 2, leaving 3x minus the 4. We know we did it right when they match. Our final factored form of this quadratic portion, x plus 2, 3x minus 4, for the quadratic. We got our zeros, and we have our factored form, x plus 2, x plus 2, 3x minus 4, giving us our zeros. In this particular case, we are going to have a bounce. Kind of cool. Negative 2, negative 2, and again, if you're not sure, just set it equal to 0, add 4 to both sides, 3x equals 4, divide by 3, x is indeed equal to 4/3. So we have all our zeros, all our factored form, all by using long division and splitting the middle term. Again, quadratic formula will work. Let's do one more and we'll call this one quits for the day, because on the back we're using some fractions and some other stuff. So hopefully you can use those skills to get you all the way to the back. And on the back side here, I want to look at problem number 11. And we're going to do number 11 using the same technique. It would be easier and faster to use the synthetic division, but we're going to do long division. Okay? So, long hard problem. Number 11. F of x is equal to 20x to the 4th minus 68x cubed plus 69x squared minus 18x. And in this case, they're telling us to start out with x equals 3/2. Yuck. Okay. Well, the very first thing I want you to notice, x, 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 x. We have to factor the whole thing. Well, let's immediately start out by getting rid of an x. We could actually rewrite this x, pulling out the x, 20x to the 3rd minus 68x squared plus 69x minus 18. Immediately we know one of the roots. We'll write the roots over here. One of them is a 0, and factored form, we're going to have an x. So we're already got one done before we even started. Now let's just focus on the rest of it. So now, x minus 3/2 all goes into 20x cubed minus 68x squared plus 69x minus 18. Good job. We don't like fractions. How can we rewrite that? So, x minus 3/2 equals 0. X equals 3/2. We're going to multiply both sides by 2 to undo the division. 2x equals 3. Subtract the 3 from both sides. 2x minus 3 equals 0. Another name for a 0. So take this and put it in the original. 2x minus 3 into all this. That's a legal move. Remember to do that. Simplify your life. Okay. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulty. But we're back. Okay, how many times does 2x go into 20x cubed? Good job. 10 times. So we're going to have 10x squared, 20x cubed, minus 30x squared. Draw our line. Make sure we do our negatives. Negative, negative, making that a plus. Bring these down, and we're going to get negative 38x squared plus a 69x. Wow. So now we've got a 19. Ooh, ugly numbers. Got a 19x, negative 38x squared, minus 57x. Minus times a minus is a plus. Good catch. Makes that a plus, makes that a minus. Draw our line. We're going to have positive 12x minus 18. 6 times minus 6. So we're going to have minus 12x, positive 6. Good job. Minus 18. Draw our line. Do our negatives. And we will get a 0. Smiley face. So 2x minus 3 is indeed a factor or a root of this cubic, because we already did the quartic to get the x out. So now we can put another one in here. 2x minus 3, and we knew that that was 3 halves. Let's see what we had left here. We'll just look at the quadratic. 10x squared minus 19x plus a 6. We've been doing that split the middle term so much. Let's try the quadratic formula this time. The opposite of b, x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Let's start plugging them in. We've got our a, our b, and our c. So we're going to have the opposite of 19 plus or minus the square root of 19 squared minus 4 times 10 times 6 all over 2a, which is 20. So we're going to have the opposite, let's see, the opposite of the negative, so we're positive 19. Square root of 19 squared. You know what that is? Me neither. 81, 171, 190, so 361. 361 minus 240 all over 20. Better come down here. So now we're going to get 19 plus or minus the square root of 121 all over 20. Well, the square root of 121, that's 11. 19 plus or minus 11 all over 20, which is 19 plus 11 over 20 and 19 minus 11 over 20. Well, this comes to 30 over 20 and 8 over 20. We can simplify those to 3 halves, which is another 3 halves. So we got a bounce at 1.5 and 4 over 10, which is 5 over 2. Cool. So 5 halves. And we can write those in factored form here as 2x minus 3 and x minus 5 halves. We could rewrite that as a squared for a multiplicity of 2 or for the bounce. So, no matter what we get, use your algebra skills trying to solve these problems and break them into their roots and their factored forms. So we did 4. You were expected to do 6 of them today. Find 2 others, and if you feel like it, try practicing your synthetic division. Even though you're not tested on it this year, you will need that skill next year. We'll see you tomorrow.